So please join me as I welcome my guest, Tolani Adeleke-Rufai.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for coming, Tolani.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Please sit down. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well.
Yeah.
You look fabulous.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. I'm just nervous.
Tonight's tonight's interview, it's about my guest, Tolani, who's had multiple miscarriages. But there's a silver lining in all of that. She's had 10 pregnancies and 2 children, meaning she had 8 miscarriages. Tonight, she's going to take us on a journey of how she was able to not only continue, but to have faith and all the support she got in between. So, Tolani, I asked earlier, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me.
Great. I know this might be a little hard, so before we get into the main topic of tonight, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Okay, so like you said, my name is Tolani. I'm a mom of 2. I'm also a wife to a lovely husband. He's right there. And I'm a nurse, and I also have a YouTube page. I'm a YouTuber, basically, yeah.
Wonderful. So if you're comfortable,
Yes.
take us to this journey of how this ordeal started.
Yeah.
When was your first pregnancy? What did you experience with that first pregnancy, and what happened?
Okay, so starting the story, it's supposed to be a happy moment anyways. I'm gonna try to keep it together. I'm trying to go back. It all started in 2008 after we got married. The first pregnancy. I think around 2 months, that was when I figured I was pregnant. And it was a happy moment for us. And just maybe few weeks down the line, I started having spotting. Went to the doctor, did checkup, and spotting, pregnancy, it could happen, right? So they sent me home. 2 weeks again after, started having cramping. Spotting wasn't stopping. Went back to the doctor. At the end of the day, it was a miscarriage. And at that time, I was about almost 4 months. And that was the first miscarriage. So we didn't think of anything, could be wrong, because anybody can have miscarriage at any point in time. And I was in my mid-20s at the time. So we tried again the following year, which is 2009. It was the same scenario. I'm gonna try to skip it because I don't want to keep everybody too long. So it was the same scenario, spotting, go to the doctor, went to the doctor, did checkup. Around the same period of time, pregnancy, I had the second miscarriage in 2009. Now, going to 2010, we tried again. And at this time, the doctor was kind of like telling me, take things slow, maybe, don't do too much work in the house, just to be extra careful, which we did. Everything doctor said to do, we did, we tried. And at 4 months, so this time around, we made it past 4 months. So at 4 months, I went to a doctor. It's like what is it called? When you go to your obstetrician, like they check you exactly. Thank you for that.
Antenatal.
So antenatal. So I went there, and it was just my regular routine checkup. And I went in, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, you can't go home now. You have to stay here." but I wasn't spotting. I didn't have any issues at the time. So, and then afterwards, I called my husband, I called my mom, that they told me to stay. That was at the hospital. And after a while, she checked again and she told me that from the test that she did, she had to examine me first of all. She examined me and she told me that it looks like my cervix is starting to open. So because of that, she needs to put me into a room so that way they can kind of monitor me. So, which they did overnight. I was at the hospital. And later on, she told me that, you know what, we have to kind of see if we can do an emergency cervix sacrilege, which is like a stitch. They have to put a stitch in my cervix to see if they can hold that pregnancy in place, which I agreed on because whatever, it's okay. So my husband signed, everything was fine. The next day, before they wheeled me into the room to do the surgery, first of all, they put my head down to see, because already the placenta was already bulging out. So they had to put me upside position for like 24 hours. I cannot eat, I can't pee, I can't do anything. I have to be in that position, even if I have to go to the bathroom. The nurse have to come in and kind of help me out while I'm like my head down, feet up. So I was there for like 24 hours. And then after that, she took me in just to see if they can, stitch me. I was put to sleep at that time. And when I woke up, maybe 40 minutes after, all I hear was, she was talking to my husband in the hallway, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, we tried. While I was trying, at that time I woke up, and the first thing I felt was, I felt empty. Like my tummy wasn't as heavy. But at the same time, I wasn't really sure because I just woke up. So she was like, oh, I'm sorry, we tried. While I was trying to see if we can stitch it, I accidentally poked the membrane, and the water kind of just gushed out. So at that moment, we can't do anything. The baby just have to kind of come out. At that time.
Now, where was this? Was this in Nigeria or was
No,
this
everything is in Canada, actually. Yeah, everything is in Canada. And this was at some hospital, I think East York General or something like that. Anyway, so it was a little bit emotional. I was just crying. I was so sad. And I was crying so loud that she could hear me, that she had to come inside and kind of like calm me down, that it's okay, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. But anything she was saying wasn't going through my ears. But that was third miscarriage.
That was the third one.
That was the third one. That was a little bit painful because it passed 4 months. So usually in Canada, if the pregnancy is above certain period of time, you have to take care of the body. But if it's under 20 weeks, then the hospital will handle it. At that time, I was actually 20 weeks. So the first thing that came to my mind was, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this baby? Like, what's going to happen? And at that time, we're not financially stable enough to say, oh, yeah, maybe we'll do this or whatnot. And the doctor was she felt so sorry about the situation. So she offered that, you know what, don't worry, I'll take care of the baby. You don't have to deal with it. And that was a little bit of relief at that time. And
taking care of the baby. I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to re-traumatize you, but I want us to go on this journey with you. So as much as you're comfortable, what does that mean?
So I don't know. As a doctor, maybe they're going to use it for experiments, or they're just going to I don't know what they're going to do with it. I didn't even bother asking. I didn't want to know. But all I know is I don't have to do any burial. So that was a little bit comforting at that time, even though I was still sad about the situation, but that was a little bit helpful at the time. So now, moving down to the following year, honestly, I'm just going to skip through because there's so many pregnancies that I kind of push back behind me. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to remember. I just kind of like, you know what, it's another one, it happened. So this has become a norm. And it happens that every single year around the same month is when I have the miscarriage. So I happen to be like changing the time I get pregnant because I know my body. Once I get pregnant, I know I'm pregnant. So sometimes I'll kind of watch the months that I think maybe I might get pregnant. I don't have issue getting pregnant. The problem I just have is keeping the pregnancy. So, 2010, 11, 12, it's just the same routine, just the same thing. But at this time, it was, around 19 weeks, 20 weeks. So now move down to 2013. That was one of the toughest miscarriage I had. I was pregnant, and we passed 4 months. Yay! So this pregnancy, every time we get pregnant, it's like we are praying, just thinking one day at a time. Let's just pass maybe the first, trimester. After that first trimester, we're like, okay, every week we pass the next week. And then after that, we're like, okay, let's pass 4 months. And then let's pass 5 months. It's just kind of like that kind of routine. So this miscarriage at the time, 2013, I passed 5 months. And we're like, yes, this is it, it's going to happen for us. And at the same time, we were praying. If you're African, you know how it is. Especially when a situation like this, people are already talking, family are there, and people are watching, and you don't feel, you feel certain way, and you have friends who already have kids, people you grow up with, everybody's doing well, and you're thinking, what's going on with me? But anyways, so this pregnancy, we passed 5 months, and we're so excited, thinking this is gonna be it. And at that time, they already considered me as high-risk pregnancy person. So they referred me to one of the best hospitals, Sunnybrook Hospital, in close to Scarborough area kind of thing. I would go there every 2 weeks. I would go in. At 5 months, I went in that appointment. Everything was fine. They sent me home. 2 days after, I started having cramping. And immediately I started having cramping. The first thing is just go to the emerge. I don't bother going to my doctor anymore, walk-in clinic, because I know they can't help me. So I went straight back to the hospital. And the doctor checked, they did ultrasound, heartbeat was fine, heart rate was fine, I was okay, blood pressure was good. And the doctor said, everything looks fine, we'll keep you for a day, but after that, we'll send you home. High-risk units, every 2-3 hours, they will come in, do another ultrasound, check you, make sure everything is fine. Everything was good. And the next day, they sent me home. My husband took me home. Instead of going home, we decided to stay at my mom's house. And we went straight to my mom's house. And getting to my mom's house, my mom was very happy. It's like, everything was good. I'm like, everything was good, mommy, We were just sitting down at the kitchen, just eating, and I was so happy, And all of a sudden, I just hear, whoosh. And when I just heard that, in my head, I'm thinking, what just happened? No, my water didn't just break. My mom and my husband, I just see them both, they look at each other, and they were kind of talking, and my head was spinning at that time. I could not believe it. Anyways, my mom was like, you need to go back to the hospital. My husband took me, we went into the car. On our way to the hospital, I was just asking, but no, it's not my water. Why? No, it's over 5 months. Everything was good. And I know you have to be 6 months before they can help to save that baby. So I'm thinking, it's just 2 weeks away. I was 5 months plus. No, it can't be. So on our way to the hospital, there was a traffic light, I can remember. Stop, red sign, because my husband was driving so fast. And he stopped at that light, waiting for the light to turn green. The first thing that came to my mind was like, Tolani, open the door, jump out, and just die somewhere. On him about to move, I just opened the door and I got out the car. Everybody at the back just pressed their horn and be like, what are you doing? He packed, and I just went down I don't even know, I just went down to somewhere. I was just crying. I was just bawling my eyes out. And he came, and everybody was like, is he okay? Is she okay? Is she okay?
What was going through your mind at that time?
I don't even know what was going through my head at that time. I was sad. I was disappointed because I would pray every time. Because of this reason, me and my husband, we created this special prayer. I'm Muslim, by the way. We create this special prayer every Friday night. We will pray as a couple. and we will take everything we want and put in God's hands and just kind of pray and, just leave it to God, basically. So now seeing that, and you know how back home is too, they'll be like, oh, Beshadura, we pray for you, dear. My mom too, everybody was just, my dad, everybody was just, so I'm just thinking, wow, why? 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 The pain was just too much for me. I don't know. I just like, maybe I should just die. Like, why? Why is this happening?
And at this point, you didn't have any kids.
No, I didn't have any kids. We didn't have any kids.
And the fifth.
Yeah. So the fifth pregnancy at the time. And I was still maybe late 20s. I can't remember. Maybe late 20s, I think. Yeah, late 20s. So I was 30. I can't remember age I was at the time. Anyways, he came, he comforted me, we went back into the car, they took me to the hospital. Getting to the hospital, they told me, you know what, it's your water that broke. There's nothing they can do at this point. I mean, they can risk it, but it's not worth risking. And they say, you know what, we just have to, have this child. It's going to be another miscarriage. I was disappointed. I was crying. My mom was there. He was there. He was right beside me. And it happened at the time. And we went home. And getting home, I'm like, no, I'm not trying anymore. That's it. I'm done. And anything I decide about pregnancy, my hubby will say, yeah, that's fine. If that's what you want, I'm okay with it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop trying. And 4 months down the line, I'm the one saying, I want to try. I want to try. And I was like, you just told me you don't want to try. I'm like, I want to try. And he's such a good man that, and you know how how we think. Well, let me just speak for maybe myself and my family side, I would say. When there's an issue when it comes to pregnancy, it's always the women, right? The man is like, okay, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, is this man gonna be like this with no kids? I have to give him a job. Even though he never for once make me feel like this is the reason why we are together. For once, he never did. Anyways, yeah, thank you. So we tried again basically in 2015. And in 2014, that was 2013. In 2014, we tried again. We got pregnant, high risk, same routine, went to the doctor, check up every 2 weeks, everything was fine, made it past 5 months, got to 6 months, got to 6.5 months, water broke. And what I left out in my story, sorry guys, is the last 3 miscarriages upward. Every time I get pregnant, at 12 weeks, they will put a stitch in. The stitch alone is a crazy pain because you have to be awake when they put the stitch in. And every time I will have the miscarriage, before I can have the miscarriage, they have to take the stitch out, which is another pain after, and then I will have the miscarriage. So it's like I'm going through the pain of no kids. You know what I mean? So now going to the last miscarriage in 14, we make it past 6 months, 6.5 months. Very, very excited. The same thing, water broke. And before the water broke, when they put the stitch in, everything was good. 3 weeks after, the stitch started to open again. They put another stitch in to make sure it's well up there. So it's funny how the cervix wasn't opening anymore. It's now the water that's breaking. What's the reason why the water is breaking? They can't say. All they can say is, I have incompetent cervix. So the water broke, went to the hospital. They had to take the stitch out because I was having contraction. So they will wait in between my contraction pain, which is a crazy pain, to be able to quickly try to take the stitch out. And this doctor could not take the stitch out. It was so tight. And it was just like, my mom was crying for me because I was going through the pain, and she was like squeezing, and she was trying all her best to take the stitch out. The reason is because if they don't take that stitch out, and I have another contraction, my cervix can rupture. So they try to avoid that. That's why they had to take the stitch out. Anyways, at the end of the day, she was able to take the stitch out. And then they wheeled me into the theater to have the baby. And they told me at this point they would try their best to save this baby because it's already well far enough. So I was, even though I was in pain, I was still hopeful. As they took the stitch out, I told them before we go, can you do another ultrasound? I just want to make sure there's still heartbeat. Everything is still fine, which they did. And heartbeat was there, and I was so happy. Yeah, maybe, you know what, she's going to be in the hospital for 3-4 months. I don't care. At least I know I have a baby. So they wheeled me into the theater, push, you know, it just took one push, and the baby came out. And everybody was ready to, you know, all the doctors, nurses. As the baby came out, baby had no pulse. And that was it. And that was the most painful miscarriage that I had, that I could remember, because it was way far long out of the pregnancies. And
Take your time. Kleenex, please. Thank you. It's okay, thank you.
That was the most painful pregnancy or miscarriage I had, because I was so hopeful, because it was already past 6 months. Yeah. My husband was so happy. He does not, for once, ever make me feel like I was alone, you know? During my pregnancy, my husband would give me a shower because I could not shower. He would take care of me. Oh, God. All I was thinking at that moment was, I just disappointed this man who gave everything so I could be okay. He does not listen to anyone, none of the family. He does not listen to anyone. He will stand by me. And I had another miscarriage, even though I know it wasn't my fault, but I would think it's my fault because he's trying. Anyways, sorry, I don't want to cry.
Don't be sorry.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So, it was the most painful pregnancy I had at that time, miscarriage I had at the time. Now, taking me into the room was another crazy one. My mom was already there, my hubby was there. And then they asked me, do you need, someone to talk to, someone, grieving? And all I'm thinking was, grieving? What am I grieving? But then I'm like, oh yeah, I still have a dead baby in there, right? So I said, okay. So they sent someone in, we're talking about everything they were saying. It's just not clicking. It's not going through my head. And then a nurse came in. She was like, what would you like to do with this baby? Which I don't know what I wanted to do with the baby. I said, I don't know. And she was like, I will leave you to think about it, but just know that the baby is here. Do you want to hold the baby? I said, yes. For the first time, can I just hold this baby? Then my mom was like, no, we don't do that in our culture. You can't hold this baby. And I understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, it's for me, not for her.
You needed closure.
I wanted the closure.
Did you?
I did. They brought the baby to me. It was a girl. It was a girl. Looks just like me. I held the baby for a few minutes, and I prayed to God while I was holding that baby that, God, please, I want this to be the last. I didn't know God was listening. I did not know God was listening. I was just telling God, oh God, please, I don't want this anymore. Let this be the last. I said what I wanted to say. My mom wasn't in the room. She's scared of dead bodies, by the way. And I am too. She worked out. But she did respect that afterwards. And they took the baby away. And then I have to think of what to do with this baby. My husband doesn't know anything about burying or grieving. I don't either. My mom don't at the time. So we end up calling, I think, a friend of a friend of a friend or something on how to help her with this. They just kind of set it up. The next day I was in hospital still. And I got the information who to call, which I did. And they will come in. And as Muslim, we don't keep the the body in the funeral home. They would just do the burial right away. So they told me they will come right away and pick this baby up. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And they did. And before they did, the hospital, they took pictures, fingerprints, and all of that. And they told me if I want to keep it. I said yes. But my hubby didn't let me keep it, which is fine. And they just took the baby away to go bury. Till today, I don't know where the baby was buried. But every time I would think about that pregnancy and that baby. And I wish I know where the baby was buried, but I didn't. As Nigerian, yeah, you can't know, right? So, and then I told my hubby, I'm like, that's it, I'm done. And he was like, finally, you done? I'm like, yeah, finally, I'm done. We can adopt, we can do surrogacy, even though I thought about it before, but I don't want to. When you're in denial, I'm just like, I got this, I would try. So at this point, I'm like, you know what, when I'm ready, we'll talk about it at the time. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And that was it, and that was 2014. And I would get pregnant every year. So 2015, nothing. I was very sure that I was not ready.
Were you on birth control at the
I
time?
wasn't. I was just being careful. Yeah, I was just like, I watch my ovulation period. I know my body so well that I kind of watch my body. So something happened. I work as a nurse, and at this time I was working in a walk-in clinic. And I went to work that day. Normally I start late, and for some reason something just told me to just go early. And I went in early. It's a walk-in clinic. Getting to the clinic, the nurse that was supposed to get the shift from, she told me, oh, I'm having a problem with this ECG machine on the patient. Can you help me out? And in my head, I'm thinking, you've been working here for so many years. But especially, why me? I just came in. Like, I haven't even punched in. Anyways, I was like, okay, fine, I'm coming in. And I dropped my bag, I punched in, I went in. The patient was lying on the stretcher, on the bed there. And I decided to, help her out. And she was standing right on the other side. I closed the door. And the first thing I heard was this patient. This patient is white, by the way. I think maybe Slovenian, kind of. And she was like, excuse me, do you have problem with your left ovaries? My head was like, no, I don't. Because I don't. Because I don't think I do, because I wasn't told. And I continued what I was doing. And then she was like, sorry, do you have a problem with your left shoulder? That was when I freaked out. When I was a baby, well, not baby, when I was six years old in Nigeria, I fell off, those, when you go on break and you those jumping thing, I fell off and I broke my left shoulder. But no one knew about this, not even in Canada. I didn't even tell my doctor in Canada about this, so no one knew. So for her to know, I was very shocked. I was like, yes, I did. I fell off. How did you know? And she told me, oh, because I can see. It's only in Nigeria I know that they say people see. Not in Canada. Honestly. And she told me, I can see. And I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah. And she was the first and only till today that told me I have a problem with my left ovaries. And then she was like, if you want, I can heal you. In my head, I'm thinking, wow. The nurse that was standing right there, she was moving more far towards the door. And I was right there, and the patient was lying down, waiting for me to do the ECG on her. But in my head, I'm thinking, something just tell me, say, okay, there's a doctor and there's other people in the clinic. What's going to happen is I just walk out. So I said, okay, yeah, sure. And she got up. She stood up for like maybe 5 seconds. She moved her eyes somehow. She didn't touch me. And then she was like, you are healed. I'm like, okay. And she was like, just to let you know, you have a baby. It's going to be a girl. She's going to be so skinny. You're going to be worried that she doesn't eat. But don't worry, she'll be fine. When she turned 12, she's going to fall sick. But don't worry, she'll be fine. And in my head, I'm like, okay. And then she was like, also tonight, you have spotting. And it means that you are healed. Don't worry, the spotting will go away. And cramping. I was like, okay, fine. The nurse that was standing was like, what about me? And this nurse is Filipino. She's Filipino. And she was like, oh, you have a boy and a girl. And she's like, okay. But during this time, nothing tells me to ask a question. I didn't ask any question. Because I wasn't, in my head, it was still sounding like she's rumbling or something. Exactly. So she was about to leave. I finished what I wanted to do, the ECG, whatever. She was about to leave. And she was like, oh, just to let you know, you might not see me again. I'm like, okay. The moment she head out, I didn't even think of my nursing license. The first thing I did was I print the label that has her name, phone number, address, email, everything. And even though I'm not supposed to, I held them like, hey, this message, I kept it, and I called my mom, and I called my husband. I was like, can you believe this? What happened? Da, 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 da. And he was like, oh, it's okay, I don't think it's anything. My mom was like, it's okay. And that was it, and that died down. 2015. 2016 came, I wasn't trying. Somehow, I got pregnant. We got pregnant, even though I was worried. It was one of the smoothest pregnancy ever. No IVF, everything was fine. Got pregnant. 9 months, had my daughter at 36 weeks. It was a girl. She was so tiny, very tiny, 5 pounds. But still, I didn't think of what the lady what she said. Before I had her, when I wanted to go do the sex, you check the gender, I was thinking, I don't know what this could be. My mom was like, remember that lady, she said a girl? I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Anyways, I had the girl, and everything was fine. She was this tiny till she was 5 years old, and she would not eat. So everything this lady said actually came to pass. We were happy that we had our first daughter. That day was like, hey, I don't know. It was a happy moment, and I could see the joy in my husband's eyes. It was really, really happy. Everybody was happy. It was nice.
Were you afraid at any point during the pregnancy?
Oh, yes. I'm not one of those that will say, oh, yeah, my pregnancy, let me flaunt it, or no, I'm always like worried. Every day it's like, okay, one day down. Okay, next day. Okay, what's going to happen next? Yeah.
So that was the first pregnancy that passed the 7th month.
Yes.
So when it passed 7th month, how were you feeling?
I was still worried because anything can happen at any time. I was worried until the day I had the baby. I was worried.
At any point in time, did you speak with physicians? Did they tell you what could have been the reason you were experiencing several miscarriages?
The only thing they said till today was incompetent cervix. But at the same time, that does not define, to me, I think, the water breaking. Although I do know that as the baby is getting heavier, it's pushing down under cervix, and that could lead to labor. But at the same time, it's just kind of, it's weird. I don't know.
And after that baby,
yeah,
I know you have 2 kids.
Yeah,
now.
So after that baby, I was just thinking, oh, you know what? I think this lady might be right. I think I'm healed. So, but at first I'm like, I don't want any more. 1 is good enough for me. But then afterwards, seeing this child grow and no one to play with, and always say, but how come? I don't have a sister, I don't have a brother. And I'm like, okay, maybe we should try one more time. Which we didn't try until she was like 5. And we tried again, and it was another miscarriage. And that was like, okay, maybe this lady was not saying the truth,
How
because she
old
said
was that pregnancy?
the pregnancy was 22 weeks. Yeah, it was 22 weeks, but I don't have to go through burial. I think at that time they kind of changed the face of, as long as the baby was already, it was a stillborn, then you don't have to deal with the body. So I'm like, okay, fine. But I didn't let that stop me. I tried again 6 months later. I got pregnant again. And this pregnancy was 27 weeks, and I had another miscarriage. That was another tough one because, anyways, yeah. We had another miscarriage. But I was so sad, but at the same time, I'm like, if God can do it, for me to try every year, and at the 7th pregnancy, I had my first child. Let's keep trying now. It be a long one, but the God is there now. Let's keep trying. And I tried again 6 months later. And then I had my second child, which is my second daughter. So,
And that was full term.
yes. And that was full term. Yeah, 30, 37 plus, almost 38 weeks. Yeah. And she's 7 months old now. Yeah.
I'm sure people in the audience are wondering if there was no pressure from your husband and you were the one putting yourself under pressure. Why? Why did you put yourself under so much pressure too and go through so much pain?
I think first thing is I was thinking, I want to be a mom too, you know? Like I want to have my own child. Like my mom has her own child, and I have friends. We have friends that we all, grew up together. Everyone is having their own kids, and I don't think I did anything to God that I won't give me my own child. So to me, I was thinking, I want my own child. And I think also the perspective of, like how, I don't know, how we Nigerians, especially maybe Yoruba, or I don't know, maybe other tribe, think like, Agoni, Kini Koni, like,
The name calling.
Yeah, and also this like, for mom call, be more call for your woman. I'm like, you can't try it. No, so that too. I don't know. I think that's just in my head thinking, no, we have to make this work somehow.
So behind, in your head somewhere, behind
I'm
your
just like,
thinking,
yeah.
you were afraid of the labeling. You were
Yes.
afraid of the name calling.
Yes.
All from society.
All from society pressure. Yes. Yes. I would agree.
What would you tell another woman who's experienced miscarriages? How would you advise them at this stage?
Well, everyone sees it differently. So, I would say don't give up, yes, but at the same time, not everyone has that heart to go along and keep trying. And some people will consider surrogacy if you feel like your body cannot take it anymore, or maybe your heart cannot take it, or might as well just go ahead and try surrogacy.
There are options.
Or adoption, or whatever other options, honestly. For me, I think it's just that thing in me that, no, I just want to have mine, and I just want to have mine. So, but for sure, not giving up. Yeah.
Thank you for not giving up.
Yeah, thank you.
You talked about your husband a lot, and he's here with us tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring your husband up, if
He's
he
a
doesn't
shy
mind.
person.
Please come.
Aww. He's a shy person.
Oh. I know I've been told that you're a very shy person. From a male perspective, when your wife was going through all of this, what were your fears? Or what? Yeah, just tell us what was going through your mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. She's a strong woman. Though, I'm sorry, I didn't plan to speak, about this because it's very emotional, right? But what I can say is, even though I told her so many times, whatever you want, I will agree with you. Don't risk anything, right? But she's very strong. She's very, very strong. And the thing is, believe. When you have belief, then that thing will work, right? If you remember, she mentioned that someone told her something at the, at the clinic, and she prayed. We prayed so many times. But if you don't have that belief, right, before you pray, the first thing is you have to believe. And she believed, and I'm so, so happy that she achieved what she wants, right? The first day, when she had the first baby, oh my God. I was so happy. It's because of the baby, and also because she achieved
What she wanted.
exactly. And she was holding the baby. I was looking at her like this. Everybody, like family, friend, was so happy. But the thing is, like she said, she can't tell that, don't give up. But at the same time, I can say, you know what? This story is not meant to make people sad. You know what I mean? It's not meant to make people sad. Because maybe one person or the other is going through the same thing, right? But, they can learn from this story. Don't give up and have the belief that things can work out for you, right? She tried it. Whenever she said, you know what, this is the end, I'm not doing anymore. I said, that's fine, don't worry, that's fine. But all of a sudden, she would change her mind again and say this. She went through a lot of tests. We've been through a lot of tests, a lot of hospital. Thank God for Canada. They did a lot of tests for her. They really tried. But I'm so happy that it works out at the end. And the first day, when she had the first baby, it was, was wonderful. Was wonderful. She was holding the baby. I can see that, You know what? God is good. God is good. God is good. Oh, let me just cut it short. The thing is I know she was taking a risk at that time, right? Because everybody might be looking like, okay, but why you taking that so much risk? I was so scared. I was very, very scared. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything. So I just want to stand by her. I want to see how things are going. But at the end of the day, everything works out. So I give God the glory that everything works out. And everyone that's listening or watching this show, maybe they're going through one thing or the other. The bottom line is, keep trying, but not just trying. Pray, and then have the belief. Have belief that things will work out. I'm so happy today because whenever I look at the baby and I can see she's smiling whenever she sees the baby, that's the best I can ask for. That's the best I can ask for. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Behind a strong woman is an even stronger man.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you for coming. And I think I'm going to release the both of you to sit down, and we're going to invite an expert, because I know we have some questions about this sort of situation. We're going to invite an OBGYN, a gynecologist, to come on to address some of our questions. So please, you may.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.